All right, download the document. Now this should be a brand new document for you, so open Cami. All right, we will also be finishing this document today. So again, you shouldn't see this, but you never want to make a new copy. All right. Now there is no Pear Deck today, so you just need to be working on the notes. Today is the first of 2 days we're going to be looking at ideas that helped enable Globalization 1.0. These ideas come from the Enlightenment. The first, really, it's 2 ideas, but they're too closely related to really for us to treat them separately. The invisible hand and laissez faire. And the second is comparative advantage. Yes, Angelina. Yes, if you will fill out your pass, I will sign it. We met the invisible hand and comparative advantage yesterday. Tomorrow we'll introduce and learn about a distinct idea from the first 2, something that I'm going to term the white man's burden. It's not in quotes because it's my original idea. It's in quotes for a couple of reasons. One, there are implications when we talk about this idea of the white man's burden. Right? We want to make sure that it's not like the actual term that we should all accept without question. The other reason, it's in quotes, it is the name of a poem by this gentleman, Rudyard Kipling. You may have heard of him before. He wrote The Jungle Book. It's a bit of a preview for that topic. This is what we can think of kind of the dark side of Enlightenment ideas. Again, we're going to start with the invisible hand and laissez faire. This will be enabling Enlightenment idea A. This comes from Adam Smith, and his book published in 1776. The same year as the Declaration of Independence, and an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations, right? Typically just referred to as the wealth of nations. Let's start with the concept we met yesterday. Jog our memories, the invisible hand. This is the idea that people, right, doing their normal, everyday, self-interested things, going to work, buying stuff, selling stuff. And really, let's face it, going to work is selling stuff. It's selling your time and your labor to whoever pays your salary or your wages. But all of us doing our own thing in our own interests will end up serving the broader interests of our whole community if this third condition is met. If we are left alone to make our own choices, right? To freely make our own choices. And that's what's meant by to act voluntarily. This doesn't have anything to do with volunteer work, community service. It can, right? If it's something you choose to do. But voluntarily here just means something that we do by our own free will and free choice. And if we have voluntary action, then the invisible hand of the market will make sure that our own actions taken for our own self-interests end up benefiting the whole community. Now, yesterday we just met it as the invisible hand. Today we've added the of the market part. So what is a market? Well, if we think of a market, it might be a place where we go buy stuff. And that actually works out just fine. Right, a market is a competitive economy where people are buying and selling things. What everybody is trying to do is make the most profit from their efforts. in whatever job we do, we would like to and we try to make the most money we can from it. So we are all producers who want to profit. At the same time, Adam Smith would also tell us that we are all consumers. Right? Everyone. Right? We all want to buy the best goods and services at the lowest price. The school district that employs me wants to employ the best people that it can for the lowest price. It's just how it works. Right? They're not going to pay more than they have to in order to fill all the teachers' positions that are available. This leads us, some of that information is repeated and not in your notes document, to laissez faire, the part we didn't see from Adam Smith yesterday. And his argument about laissez faire is this: because of the benefits of the market, because the market benefits the whole community, while at the same time allowing people the freedom to pursue their own interests. Right? We're not forcing anyone to do the right thing, to benefit their community. We've set this up such that people can be selfish and yet benefit the community. And because of this, the government should leave the market alone. The government should take a laissez-faire approach to the market. All right. Now, if I were a snooty British author, and I know this because they do these things sometimes, they like to use French words and phrases and never tell you what they mean. All right, just assume that you also speak French. I don't. I'm going to guess a lot of you don't either. So, unlike the snooty Brits, I will tell you, laissez-faire means let it be. All right, now, don't anybody take this as an invitation to start singing John Lennon songs. I don't like John Lennon. I know that makes me a horrible person, but it's true. All right? So don't do it. All right. It means let it be. Right? And because Adam Smith is writing this a long time before John Lennon started writing songs, what he means is that the government simply should not bog the market down or restrict the market economy with a bunch of rules. Now, let's be clear, right? Because you might be thinking, so is Adam Smith saying we need to go back to a state of nature? No, he is not telling us we need to go back to a state of nature. Adam Smith believes in government. Right? Government needs to exist. It needs to exist to protect property. There need to be laws so that if Morgan hires Alexis to do a job and they have a contract, that both sides live up to their end of the contract, that Alexis does the work, that Morgan pays Alexis for the work. And if one of them doesn't hold up their end of the deal, the government can make sure that that person is punished and the victim is made whole. And so it's not that there are no rules, but he doesn't want too many. He doesn't want what Americans typically complain about as regulations, right? Now, I'm not saying here that Americans are wrong to criticize regulations. There are certainly regulations I think are pointless or bad. Right? But as you think about this, you should think about this the way Americans typically do. Right? Regulations that constrain people. Red tape, right, that gets in the way of people doing what they want to do. Yes, Brina. Yes, please fill out your pass and I will sign it. And one example of this, right, that Adam Smith would take particular issue with is probably licensing for people who cut hair. Right? How many of you have ever noticed when you've gone in for a haircut that somewhere near that person's chair, right, maybe their mirror, is a little plaque or a little piece of paper that says they've got a license to cut hair from the state? How many of you have ever noticed that? All right, Jose, you've seen that. Zach, you've seen it. The rest of you, if you've gone anywhere where you've paid money for somebody to cut hair, that license was probably around. Why do you think they license people who cut hair? What's the point of licensing people to cut hair? So you know they can cut hair, right? Because it says, they've passed a test, a hair cutting test. They've taken actually a pretty ridiculous number of hours of classes to show that they can cut hair, right, before they take this test. And do you think everybody that's got a license to cut hair is good at it? No, I can tell you, I've gotten some bad haircuts in my day. It's actually one of the other things, aside from the cost, that led me to just have long hair. I was tired of getting bad haircuts. Right? And all the people who gave me bad haircuts had licenses to cut hair. Right? Some of the best haircuts I ever got were from my grandfather, who was an engineer for Burlington Northern and had never been licensed to cut hair. Right? But he did a good job. So licenses don't necessarily protect us from bad haircuts. Right? What would Adam Smith say is the reason the market all by itself could protect us from bad haircuts? Right? We don't need licenses. Adam Smith would say, we just need the market and the invisible hand. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of help as we process through this. Malia, let's say you go somewhere and you get a bad haircut. All right? Are you going to go back to that same person and be like, oh, shucks, they meant so well, I'm going to give them another chance? No, you are not giving them another chance, right? They botched your hair once. Takes weeks or months for that stuff to correct itself. Never again. Right? And if a Moriana, now a Moriana is quite polite, and there's a fair chance she wouldn't actually do this, but she says, oh, Leah, your hair looks terrible. Right? That's awful. Right? What happened? Right? Are you going to tell her where you got a haircut? So that she doesn't accidentally get a haircut at the same bad place? Yeah, you are. Okay. Now, that word's going to spread around. Is that person that cuts hair badly going to be cutting hair in a few months' time when word gets out? No. Right? Eventually, everybody will know. Right? You don't go to that person to get your hair cut. Did they need a license? Right? Did licensing protect people from that person who gave Malia a bad haircut? No. The invisible hand, right, protected other people from the same person that gave Malia such a bad haircut. Now, actually, anybody who's actually looked at Malia, I've not picked on her because she has a bad haircut. So don't assume that there's any reason she got picked on for this. All right. That's what Adam Smith would be talking about. Let it be, right? Let people cut hair. The good ones will keep doing it because people will keep paying for their services, and the bad ones, they'll be doing something else, right? Because nobody will want to pay them for haircuts. All right. So, instead of regulations and red tape, the government should just allow a free market. Next up is Enlightenment idea B, Comparative Advantage, which we also met yesterday. And that was brought to us by David Ricardo. Now, as we look at David Ricardo, we might think, well, maybe he's from Spain or somewhere like that. He's not. All right? One of the important things, this will become clearer as we go on, David Ricardo and Adam Smith are both British. Right? Now, Adam Smith is Scottish, and he probably would have identified himself as Scottish. And David Ricardo might have, I think, identified himself as English. But they were both subjects of, or citizens of, the United Kingdom. That will become important later. And remember, Ricardo's idea is the comparative advantage. And what he's calling for with this argument is for people as individuals, for communities, and even for whole states, whole countries, to stop trying to be autarkic. Now, I know that looks like a weird word. It does look weird. I always doubt that that's the correct spelling. But it is, and this funny-looking and funny-sounding word means to be totally self-sufficient. Ricardo said, don't try to be self-sufficient. Don't try to do everything yourself. And this is true even if you have an absolute advantage in the production of everything that you could possibly need. Even if you can do everything better than somebody else, or more cheaply than somebody else. And possibly you can do it better and more cheaply than somebody else. Let's think about Patrick Mahomes, right, and mowing his lawn, our example from yesterday. Now, I'm not an athletic type, and I'll be honest, I don't watch a whole lot of football. But I do get the sense from watching Patrick Mahomes that the man is methodical, he is fastidious, and he pays a lot of attention to detail. And I'm going to guess if he put his heart into it, he could do a fantastic job mowing his lawn, and we've already established that he can do it cheaper than a lawn service. All right, but David Ricardo would still say, Patrick Mahomes, don't mow your own lawn, right? Even though you can do it better and cheaper than somebody else. The fact that you can do it better and cheaper isn't the point. What he argues is that people should instead, right? And again, this is people as individuals, this is communities, this is whole countries, right? Whole states, should be specialists. Right? They should specialize in producing whatever it is, whether it's a good or a service, in which they have a comparative advantage. And remember, the two key concepts to distinguish here are absolute advantage and comparative advantage. And a comparative advantage is, first, the thing that you can produce more efficiently compared to somebody else, or relative to somebody else. Second, and it's important to have both of these things, production where the opportunity cost is lower. And so think again to Patrick Mahomes. Right? If he doesn't mow his own lawn, his opportunity cost is $45. Because he could do it for $5, and a lawn service will do it for $50. His opportunity cost, if he mows his lawn instead of signing autographs for an hour, was $955. So the thing he should give up is mowing his own lawn, and the thing he should do is sign merchandise for $1,000 an hour. And David Ricardo tells us that this specialization allows everyone to produce as they can best produce, right, most efficiently, with the lowest opportunity costs, and consuming what other people are better at producing. Now, I know I've worded it slightly different in your notes. Because in your notes it says better produce. I left that there because that's better English and will make more sense if you're looking over it later. But we should produce what we're best at and consume what other people are best at. And, Ricardo argues, this kind of specialization, based on comparative advantage, will make us all richer. Yep.